In this video, we're going to go through the lower block science, which is for primary 3 and 4 in the module diversity. And the topic is plants, some exam questions that have appeared in previous CA1, SA1, and SA2s from various schools. Study the pictures of the two different plants as shown below. So if you can see, this is a fruit and this is a fern. All right, and the first obvious difference that comes to me between a fruit and a fern is that this is a non-flowering plant and this is a flowering plant. All right, so non-flowering plant will reproduce by spores and flowering plants will reproduce by seeds, because the flowers will become fruits and the fruits will have seeds in it, and then the seeds will become plants and the plants will have flowers and flowers have fruits and seeds. For non-flowering plants, they have spores, and then from spores they become plants, and then after that the plants will have spores. So it's an easier cycle than the flowers, fruit, seeds. Okay, but this is something that you have to know. All right, so if you're not familiar with this, commit this to memory. Flowers go from flowers to fruits to seeds to plants. All right, so you can just put in any flower. So I love watermelon, so I have watermelon flowers, and then after that I have watermelon fruits as the watermelon, and then there are watermelon seeds, and then from there I get the watermelon plant, new watermelon plant, and then the new watermelon plant will have watermelon flowers. All right, so that's how it goes. Based on the observations made, state how plant A and B reproduce. Plant A will reproduce by, like I mentioned, seeds, and plant B will reproduce by spores. All right, so this is something you have to know. You have to know also some examples of flowering plants and non-flowering plants. All right, but as we go down the questions, you will see the examples. Can the bread mold be grouped together with plant B? Explain why. So bread mold can be grouped with plant B because they reproduce by, both of them reproduce by spores. All right. Another possible answer actually is actually no. All right, if some students will say no, they cannot be grouped together because plant B make its own food. All right, this is a fern, and fern makes its own food because they have chlorophyll. Correct. They have chlorophyll, and they can make its own food. Make own food. But bread mold does not make its own food. All right, so plant B can make its own food because it can carry out photosynthesis, but bread mold does not. So both answers are correct. You just have to choose one and provide the correct reason. That's more important than yes or no. Teachers are looking out for your reasoning behind it, whether you understand the classification tables. Bala wanted to find out if moisture was needed for mold to grow. So moisture, he wanted to find out if moisture. So even without looking at anything else, you need to know that your changed variable is moisture. All right, so something's got to do with moisture must change in your experiments, okay, because you want to find out if moisture is needed for mold to grow. So he placed one piece of bread each into a plastic bag as shown below. Set up M, set up N. Oh dear, you have white bread and you have wholemeal bread. Is that correct? No, that's not correct. Huh? So you need to change moisture, not the type of bread. Sealed plastic bag, set up N, and there is no change in moisture. Right? So there's you change the bread. And there is no change in moisture. All right, and that's very wrong because you need to change the moisture and not the bread. So let's look at so the question you can roughly guess is going to be something along the lines like what should be changed, or how should he change this experiment so that he can find out whether bread mold needs moisture to grow. The table below shows the variables in Bala's experiment. So variables: setup M white bread transparent 0 ml, dark carbon, setup N wholemeal transparent 10 ml. Oh, okay, there is some change in water, dark carbon as well, but there are two variables. All right, so variables are things that are different. So one of them is white bread, one of them is wholemeal bread, one of them is 0 ml, one of them is 10 ml. This is the same, both are in transparent bags and both are in dark cupboards, so this is okay, this is okay. We have to look at this too. His teacher said that one of the variables was incorrect for a fair test to be done. Which of the following variables was incorrect? Alright, so again, I'm trying to test if moisture has got anything to do with mold, alright, mold growth. And I want to, so if I'm trying to test for moisture, then that means I need to change my moisture, alright, which means that this is the correct variable to change, and this is the wrong variable. So if I want to test for what kind of experiments should I be looking out for, if I want to test for the type of bread, so my experiment should be the type of bread, does it affect the mold growth? All right, then I will put different breads with the same amount of moisture and everything else being the same, and then I can see after some time whether moisture prefers white bread or wholemeal bread. All right, so most humans prefer white bread. Do mold like white bread like humans do? Something like that. All right. So the teacher said that, so which of the following variables was incorrect? So the incorrect one, even without looking at the answers, is actually type of bread. You should use the same type of bread. Study the flow chart below. I have some things over here. Does it need air, food, and water? No. Yes, so this is a living thing. Alright, so just to revise, living things need air, food, and water. They can grow, respond to changes, and reproduce. You have to learn these 6 letters, alright, to make it easy for you. Can it make its own food? No. Yes. So yes would be plants that are green, right? Green plants. So under flowering, most flowering plants make its own food. Under non-flowering plants, the group of ferns make its own food. So no, if it cannot make its own food, they can be under animals or fungi. So does it need air, food, and water? No, means it's a non-living thing. Is it flexible? Yes. Is it flexible? No. This can be many different things. State all the characteristics of X. Now, this kind of questions, basically, you just have to look at the letter in the flowchart and figure out what are the characteristics based from the flowchart, okay? So the characteristics of X is first, does it need air, food, and water? It needs air, food, and water, and it cannot make its own food. So number 1, it needs air, food, and water. And number 2, it cannot make its own food. You have to state both of them, and you have to state what is given from this diagram. So for example, let's say I know that this is a plant, and they ask you to state the exact characteristics of W. I cannot say that, although I know that it has chlorophyll, I cannot say that it has chlorophyll, or I cannot say that it can photosynthesize. Alright? Because it's not stated in this flowchart. So if you want to state all the characteristics of X, you have to state something that is given in the flowchart. State the difference between W and Z. So again, difference is also from the flowchart. Alright. So I have W over here. Let's use a different color. W. And I have Z over here. So state the difference between the flow, W and Z is over. You need to go trace back to the diamond that both of them will meet. So do they meet over here? Nope. Do they meet over here? Nope. So I trace back again. I trace back again. Oh, both of them meet at this diamond. All right. You can trace back to the diamond that they meet, and then from there you can tell that Z does not need air, food, and water, and W, yes, for air, food, and water. So W needs air, food, and water. Okay. So state the difference. W needs air, food, and water. Z does not need air, food, and water. Alright, so that's how you state the difference, and that's how you find out. You have to use your pen and draw back your arrows and trace back until you can find a common diamond that they meet, and that's how you can find out the difference between these two letters. State the similarity between Y and Z. Let's look at the question. So I have Y over here and I have Z over here. So what is the difference? Now, is it flexible? No, it's not flexible because they are different. Z is not flexible, whereas Y is flexible. So let's go back one more diamond. Both of them meet over here. So does it need air, food, and water? So both Z and Y do not need air, food, and water. All right. So Z and Y do not need air, food, and water. All right. So if you write there both Z and Y are non-living things, this is a big fat wrong. All right. Again, you have to look at the flow chart to tell you the difference or the similarity. So the flow chart here writes, does it need air, food, and water? You write there, it does. They do not need air, food, and water. Okay. Do not write there non-living things. Although it is the non-living things, you are not able to see it from the flow chart. So do not write that over there. Give an example of W. So an example is a specific plant. All right, a specific plant. An example is not something like, it's not a category. I'm not sure if you know the difference. A category is like a fern is a category. A bird's nest fern is a specific plant. A flowering plant is a category. A rose is a specific plant. So when they are asking for examples, they are looking for specifics, all right, not categories. So when you go up there again, and you look at this, you have things. You have, does it need air, food, and water? Yes, it's a living thing, that's fine. Can it make its own food? Yes. So you need to give some specific examples of plants that can make its own food. All right, so you can give some flowering plants. I'm giving a lot. You can just choose one of it. You can give rose. You can give orchids. Or you can give ferns like bird's nest fern. All right, but you cannot give something like fern. All right, this is wrong. Neither can you give something like flowering plants. That's also wrong. All right, this is also wrong. So you need to give specific names, specific items to get this mark. R is a living thing and its characteristics are given below. It reproduces by spores. All right, so it's a non-flowering plant. Cannot make its own food, therefore it is a fungi. Can be seen with the naked eye and absorbs food from the surrounding, which also means it's a fungi. All right, so looking at these, you should be able to tell all these characteristics over here. Which one of the following could represent living thing are? Is it moss, yeast, grass, or mushroom? So moss is green, so it cannot make its own food. Yeast, it's very small, so cannot really be seen with the naked eye. Grass is grass does not reproduce by spores, so the best answer is actually mushroom, which is a large fungi. So answer is number 4. The flowchart below shows the characteristics of 3 things, X, Y, and Z. So again, things, does it grow? No, yes. So living things need air, food, and water. Living things grow, respond, and reproduce. So does it grow? Yes, this is probably a living thing. This is a non-living thing. Does it move from place to place? Yes and no. So living things that do not move from place to place are usually called plants, and these are animals. Alright, so you, again, looking at the flowchart, you should be able to tell this kind of, put them into rough categories. Based on the flowchart above, list 2 characteristics of thing Z. So again, you need to get it from the flowchart and not from your science knowledge. Alright, so thing Z, 2 characteristics. Draw your arrow, draw your arrow. So does it move from place to place? Yes. Does it grow? Yes. So it moves from place to place and it grows. Alright, so these are the 2 characteristics of thing Z. Based on the flowchart above, which group of living things does Y belong to? Let's take a look at Y. So I have Y over here. I've written here plants, but go through again. Things, does it grow? No. Yes, it grows. Does it move from place to place? So plants generally do not move from place to place. So this is a tree. It has roots. It's not going to move to, let's say, I have a road, and it's not going to move like down the road in a short period of time. Alright, whereas if I have a bird that's on a tree, this bird can easily fly to your head, ding, and land on your head easily. Alright, whereas for a tree, it's not going to move anytime soon. So that's why plants labeled do not move from place to place. So over here, which group does Y belong to? Is the group of plants. 2 pots of plants were placed in an open field. Okay, so open field implies there is sunlight. Alright, sometimes it implies rain as well. Alright, so these are the things you need to know. When I say open field, I mean I have sunlight and I have rain. Pots of plants over here. Each pot was covered with 1 of the black boxes as shown below. The black boxes had holes made on different parts of the boxes as shown. So if I'm going to put a plant in a box with the sun, generally what I need to know is that plant will grow towards the hole. So I have the holes over here. Might be difficult to see the box. So this box looks like this. This box looks like this. This box looks like this. And this box looks like this. Alright, so the boxes have holes cut in different places. Let's take a look at the question. Aha, we found out. So the diagram below shows what the plant looks like after 3 weeks. So one of them is leaning this way, one of them is leaning this way. So we need to find a box that has a hole somewhere on the left for pot B and somewhere on the right for pot A. So on the right we have S, so this is good for pot A. And on the left we have Q, so that's good for pot B. Alright, now the other 2, this is on top. You can see this is on top, so the plant for this will grow straight. Whereas this is at the bottom, so the plant will grow like that. Alright, so there's the leaves, something like this. Okay, so this is for R and this is for P. So box B will be Q, and box A will be S. So pot A was covered with box S, box B is covered with box Q, so answer is number 4. The diagram below shows a plant growing in a garden. Alright, so this is a pole, some soil is a fruit. So with fruit, I know that this is a flowering plant, and it will reproduce by seeds. Alright, so we'll just go against seeds, will become plants, that become flowers. Flowers will have fruits, and the cycle goes on and on. It's a pole here, so I have something called weak stems. Weak stems are weak, so there's 2 possible ways that weak stems can grow. They either grow on the floor like that, alright, so they will grow out if there's nothing to climb to, or if there's a pole, then they will climb up the pole. Alright, and why do they want to do this kind of things? Okay, because plants only got one purpose in their life, and that's not PSLE. The purpose in life for plants is to get more sunlight. Alright, so I want to spread out. I want to spread as far as I can. This is a flat piece of land, if you cannot tell. So I want to spread as far as I can so I get more sunlight. I want to get as high as I can so I can get more sunlight. The higher I get, the nearer to the sun I become, and the more sunlight I get. Alright, so that's what the purpose of plants, or purpose of life, the purpose of what plants do in life. Yeah, alright. So let's look at the statements. A group of children made the following statements about the plant. The plant has a weak stem. That is correct, because this is a weak stem. If you see a pole and you see something curling up, that means they have a weak stem. The plant has a strong stem. That is not correct. The plant is a flowering plant. That is correct, because it has fruits. Fruits will have seeds. Seeds will have plants, will grow to become new plants, and new plants will reproduce, will have flowers, alright, that will become fruits. So this is correct. So this is wrong. It's a non-flowering plant. It's wrong. So A and C are correct. So I know A and C got it correct, so I choose this. The answer is number 1. Martin carried out an experiment to find out which toothpaste was able to reduce the growth of bacteria. The results were recorded as shown below. Toothpaste A, amount of bacterial growth, 15, 10, and 5. So which toothpaste should Martin use and why? So you want to find the toothpaste that has the least amount of bacterial growth. So if you look at these 3 values, you should be looking at the one with the lowest. So you should say toothpaste C. Why? Because toothpaste C has the least bacterial growth as compared to A and B. Alright, now this as compared to is quite an important statement. The reason is, if you stop here, C has the least bacterial growth. Now, is it what least bacterial growth in the world, in the universe? All right, it's not in the universe or in the world, but it's only as compared to A and B. So you have to write this down when you are choosing something. All right, so if you are choosing most flexible or stiffest material or hardest material to make an umbrella, or most waterproof material to make a umbrella, it's always as compared to the other materials that are being tested in the experiment. So just write as compared to A and B, all right, or the other materials in the experiment. State 2 conditions that allow the bacteria to grow well inside the mouth. Oh, lovely. So what do living things need? So bacteria are living things. They need air, food, and water. So what are the 2 conditions? The one main condition is that you don't brush your teeth. So if you don't brush your teeth, you feel that slimy, slippery thing on your teeth, right? If you don't brush your teeth, that is actually bacteria growing. And they grow there because they have lots and lots of food. All your chicken rice from yesterday, they are eating it right now. And condition 2, you can either pick one of these, air, food, and water. Just pick one of it. So I've picked food. The other one is a water. Okay. So as long as they have food and water and air, they grow and reproduce very well. The classification chart shows how some fruits have been grouped. So I have fruits here. I have smooth skin, 1 seed, many seeds. This is X, 1 seed, many seeds. Right. So again, a one seed with smooth skin. Let's give some examples. It can be mangoes. All right. So mangoes have 1 seed with smooth skin. So smooth skin with many seeds can be apples. All right. So X. Let's see what X can be. So if this side is smooth skin, I can roughly guess that it's rough skin. All right. So I can put rough skin over here. Because this side is smooth skin, so the other side should be the opposite, which is rough skin. So let's put it in rough skin. Based on the classification chart above, state the characteristics of fruit A. So again, based on the chart, not based on your knowledge. So smooth skin, so A is over here. All right, let's just rub this away. A is over here. So A has, let's go back, 1 seed, let's go back, and it's a smooth skin, and let's go back, it is a fruit. So you can write 1 seed, you can write fruit, smooth skin. Fruit is usually not written, but don't tell me it's a flowering plant, or it's like yellow, or it's sweet. You know, these are not based on the classification chart above. So you need to write 1. So A has 1 seed, and it has smooth skin. All right, so that's how you write based on the classification chart above. Based on the classification chart above again, state 1 similarity between fruit B and fruit D. So B is over here. B is over here. So I want 1 similarity between fruit B and fruit D. So if I trace 1 box above, so both of them have many seeds. So both B and D have many seeds. All right, so that's the similarity between fruit B and D. Which one of the following statements is true about ferns? So whenever you see a true, false, always label your answers true and false. So they are plants. Is it true about ferns? True. They bear fruits. Is it true about ferns? False. They do not bear fruits. All right. They reproduce by spores. They reproduce by seeds. Is it true or false? They false. Ferns reproduce by spores. All right. So they don't bear fruit. They cannot make their own food. It's false. They can make their own food. It is fungi that cannot make its own food. All right. So the answer is number 1. Study the diagram below. There's some mold over here. There's a mushroom over here. Which of the following statements are true about both of them? So both are non-living things. That's not true because bread mold and mushroom are grouped under plants, and they are living things because they need air, food, and water. And they can grow, respond to changes, and reproduce. Both reproduce by spores, that's true. Both are non-flowering plants, that's true, because they reproduce by spores. Flowering plants reproduce by seeds. both do not make their own food. All right, that's also true because bread mold grow on bread. Their food source comes from bread. Mushroom also grow on dead and decayed things. So they do not make their own food also, you can tell, because they do not have chlorophyll. They are not green. They do not have chlorophyll. And they cannot photosynthesize, and therefore they do not make their own food. So true about the both of them is B, C, and D. And the answer is number 4. Tammy placed a slice of bread in a plastic bag and kept it in a dark room. She did the same for 3 other slices, but changed the amount of water dropped on the bread. She observed and recorded the number of days the bread took to turn moldy as shown in the table below. So volume of water, bread A, B, C, and D. Volume of water is increasing, all right, 0, 2, 4, 6. Number of days the bread took to turn moldy is actually decreasing. So it goes from 7, 5, 4, 3. So the relationship between the volume of water and the volume and the number of days is that if you increase the volume of water, the number of days will decrease. This is important to know. So which one of the following is a correct statement? Mold does not need water to grow. This is not correct because mold is a living thing. It needs air, food, and water. Grow, respond, and reproduce. So it needs water. Alright, so that's wrong. Bread A was the last to turn moldy. That is correct because if you look at bread A, it took 7 days to turn moldy. So that's the last. Whereas the rest took like 3, 4, or 5 days. Mold grows best in dry and dark conditions. That is not correct because when you increase the volume of water, the faster the mold grows. So actually mold grows best in wet and dark conditions. All right. The smaller the volume of water was added, the faster the bread turned moldy. This is also incorrect because it's actually not the smaller the volume, the larger the volume of water was added, the faster the bread turned moldy. Or you can say the smaller the volume of water was added, the slower the bread turned moldy. Alright, so the answer is number 2, which is bread A was the last to turn moldy.